fascinating experiment was published in the journal Science in 1980, where scientists at Ohio State University were studying the metabolism of cholesterol in rabbits. They were feeding rabbits diets that were extremely high in cholesterol, and then looking at cholesterol elevations and atherogenesis, which is hardening of the arteries. And to their amazement, they found that there was one group of rabbits that did not get the same extent of atherosclerosis or hyperlipidemia, even though these rabbits were being fed the same diet. There was, in fact, a 60% less incidence of hyperlipidemia and its complications. And they couldn't figure out what the difference was between these rabbits, till somebody found out that the technician who was feeding these rabbits, instead of just throwing the food at them, he would take them out of their cages and he would pet them and cuddle them, whisper sweet nothings in their ear. And now, as a result of this experience of love, and if you don't like the word, if it's scary, you can call it the flow of information and energy. As a result of this new experience, these rabbits, they transferred the cholesterol into a completely different metabolic pathway, making the essential difference between life and death from the #1 killer in our civilization, which is, of course, as you know, cardiovascular disease. So even though it's important what we eat, it seems like our state of awareness when we're eating influences the metabolic pathway of food, a thing that science has not yet recognized. When you look at nutrition from a purely scientific point of view, there is no place for consciousness. And yet consciousness could be one of the crucial determinants of the metabolism of food itself. Another fascinating study that I came across a few years ago was in the journal Pediatrics by scientists and investigators at the University of Miami School of Medicine. And these scientists were looking at premature infants and their ability to thrive. Infants born about 8 to 10 weeks prematurely. They divided the infants into two groups. In one group, they had little holes in the crib through which an investigator could reach in and stroke the baby about 3 times for approximately 15 minutes. They didn't, of course, call it stroking. They called it kinesthetic tactile stimulation, which is the Orwellian medical terminology for stroking. God forbid, call it love. But those babies that received this tactile kinesthetic stimulation gained an average of up to 49% more weight per day, fed on exactly the same formula, leading the investigators to conclude that, quote unquote, tactile kinesthetic stimulation is a cost-effective strategy because you can save $3,000 per admission. They gain weight so much faster. We now know that if you lovingly touch someone, there is an immediate release of growth factors and growth hormones, particularly in babies and children, but even in adults. And growth hormone is an anti-aging hormone. It's a hormone that is known to have biological effects that reverse the aging process, even in adults. It's an anabolic hormone. When dogs lick their puppies, that's what happens. Growth hormone spurts occur. In fact, there's a condition that scientists recognize, endocrinologists recognize, it's called psychosocial dwarfism. And in this condition, you have children who are literally dwarfs. You measure growth hormone in their system, in their blood, it's very much depressed. And if you give them growth hormone, they still don't grow because the receptors do not bind to the growth hormone. Because these kids are not just physical dwarfs, they're emotional dwarfs. Take them out of this environment, put them with a loving mother or a mother figure, and touch them, and suddenly you'll see elevations of growth hormone, and the receptors will start to soak in this growth hormone. What we're seeing is the transformation of consciousness into a material thing, in this case, growth hormone. Growth hormone, a product of a certain code of intelligence in consciousness. Now there are many studies that show that it's not just growth factors, but many other biochemicals. There's a rush of chemicals, of healing chemicals into your system just through the experience, the sensory experience of the world. But that sensory experience has to be non-threatening. It has to be nourishing. It has to be loving. Love transforms itself into these healing chemicals. You've heard that song, I'm sure. Touch me, feel me, hear me, heal me. Happens to be a fact of physiology. A few years ago also, I came across an extraordinary study which was looking at risk factors for sudden death from cardiovascular events, cardiovascular disease happening to be the #1 killer in our civilization. And I said to myself, why are scientists looking at risk factors for cardiovascular deaths? Of course, we know what they are. Smoking and hypertension and high cholesterol. Well, recent statistics indicate that more than 50%, which is actually the majority of patients who are dying prematurely of sudden death from cardiovascular events, in fact, do not have any one of the standard risk factors. What was found? The #1 predictor of fatal coronary events was job dissatisfaction, people who hated their jobs. And there's a very interesting concept in Ayurvedic medicine. The concept, it's in fact a spiritual law, literally. It's called the law of dharma. The word dharma in Sanskrit means purpose in life. The law of dharma says we are here for a reason. And it says this reason, at least there are 3 components to it. #1, to discover the true nature of reality, to pierce the mask of matter and confront reality, not through the artifact of sensory experience, but as it really is. Because between us and reality, there's the screen of perception. There's such a beautiful expression from one of William Blake's poems, and let me see if I can remember it. He says, we are led to believe a lie when we see with and not through the eye, which was born in a night to perish in a night when the soul slept in beams of light. The first component of this law of dharma is to confront reality, not through the artifact of perception, but to confront it as it really is and recognize that it's our own spiritual nature. And I'll talk about this later. The second component of the same law of dharma is to serve our fellow human beings, to ask the question, how can I help? And the third is to express our unique talents, because the law of dharma says everyone that is alive has a unique talent and a unique way of expressing it that no one else has. There's one thing you can do better than anyone else on this planet. And when you're doing it, you lose track of time. You escape time-bound awareness. So I would restate the #1 risk factor for death, premature death, is lack of meaning or purpose in life. The #2 predictor happened to be something called self-happiness rating, whether you think you're happy or not. As a result of this study and other studies, and similar studies in Europe, an amazing statistic has emerged. More people die in our civilization on one particular day of the week, and I'm sure you can guess which one that is. Yes, and guess what time? So 9 o'clock on Monday morning, more people die in our civilization than at any other time. It's an extraordinary and stunning and unique accomplishment for which only the human species can take credit. Because I would presume that no other animal knows the difference between Monday and Tuesday. What's the difference? It's just an idea. It's just an idea. And you can't see ideas. You can't lock them up in a test tube. You can't observe them through a microscope. But ideas have been the harbingers of disease and death and devastation and war. Maybe they could be the messengers of healing as well. Even our experience of space and time is similarly self-engendered. Ask a good physicist, has anyone ever done an experiment or given a mathematical formulation for the existence of the flow of linear time? Ask a good physicist that, and she'll tell you there's no such experiment and there's no such formula. That the flow of linear time is a phenomenon that is created by the nervous system. In a universe where past, present, and future all coexist in a field of all possibilities. That the experience of linear time is actually just nature's way of preventing us from experiencing everything all at once, which is the way it's really happening. And of course, from our own experience, we know that we have a personal experience of time. If you're having a good time, then time flows. A few years ago, I took this flight from Boston to London, met this old friend of mine. We had such a good time, time flew. They told us that the flight was 6 hours, but to us it appeared, as the English expression goes, we got there in a jiffy. Forgot to eat, forgot to sleep. When we got there, we didn't even have the experience of jet lag. All these biological cycles, fixed cycles of rest and activity, all these rhythms that orchestrate digestion and metabolism, they got restructured. As a result of the experience, we had a good time. And of course, you may know other people in your environment who constantly seem to be the embodiment of the expression, I am running out of time. They see the same clocks that you and I see, but for them, they're moving much faster. If you examine these people, you'll find they have speeded up biological clocks. They have faster heart rates and jittery platelets with high levels of adrenaline. These are scared platelets that are huddling together in their fright. High levels of all the other stress hormones. When they suddenly drop dead of a premature heart attack, then of course, they have run out of time. And then we meet people whose internal dialogue seems to be, I have all the time in the world. They have a slower biological clock. And once in a while, we've all had the experience. Perhaps you were in love, or perhaps you were making love, or perhaps you were looking at eternity between the clouds, gazing at the stars. Perhaps you were walking on the beach. Perhaps you were listening to some exquisite music. Perhaps you were praying. And suddenly, you slipped out of time-bound awareness altogether. As when a person says, the beauty of the mountain was breathtaking, time stood still. What's that experience when time comes to a standstill? What's that experience? Abraham Maslow, the great American psychologist, stated, this is a peak experience. Ancient wisdom traditions have called this the experience of unity consciousness. Unity consciousness means that the observer and the object of observation become one. They become unified into one wholeness of experience. The seer and the scenery become one. The knower and the object of knowledge become one. The observer and the observed become one. They are the same thing in different disguises. It's also the experience of love, but love not as a mere sentiment, love as the ultimate truth at the heart of creation. A great Indian poet by the name of Rabindranath Tagore once said, the same stream of life that runs through the world and dances in rhythmic measure runs through my veins, night and day. It is the same life that shoots in joy through the dust of the earth into numerous blades of grass and tumultuous waves of flowers. It is the same life that is rocked in the ocean cradle of birth and death, in ebb and in flow, and my limbs are made glorious by the touch of this world of life, and I feel the life throb of ages dancing in my blood this moment. That's the experience of timelessness. We escape time-bound awareness in unity consciousness.
Well, stay tuned for part 2 of Dr. Chopra's lecture on the body, mind, and soul. He's going to be exploring perception and how that your perception changes reality, because your perception is your reality and someone else perceives things differently. So you see, reality changes with each person. That's what we're going to be talking about in the second part of this program. And we hope that you're enjoying the lecture by Dr. Deepak Chopra. He's a renowned health expert and a physician, and has been for quite a few years, in fact, 11 years, in fact, touring the lecture circuit, teaching about body-mind therapy. Now, in the past few years, you may have seen Bill Moyer's series, Healing in the Mind, on public television. And this program really kind of extends that exploration of healing in the mind. And we're glad that you're with us this evening. And if you think this kind of programming is important and should be on public television, then we need to hear from you with your membership support. Every dollar is so important right now. This is the last membership drive of our fiscal year, and membership pledges from folks just like you is what pays for the programs. So won't you join us as the newest member of Channel 24? The number is on your screen, and our volunteers are standing by. And we have a goal of $7,500 for this program. We have $2,190 pledged, and our volunteers this evening are from the Learning Institute for Elders at UCF. They'd be more than happy to take your membership pledges at 282-2020 or 1-800-785-2020. For a pledge of $150, we'd be happy to send you both lectures that you're hearing this evening, the 2 video series. Each one is an hour in length, and you can get that for a pledge of $150. You can charge that to Visa, MasterCard, or Discover. If you'd like to put it on Easy Membership, it works out to just $12.50 a month, and the volunteers can tell you how you can get that started. The important thing is that you join us as a member of the station, because with federal funding cuts coming up to the tune of $83,000 this coming year, every dollar and every pledge will make a tremendous difference, and every member is sincerely appreciated. So give us a call.
Join us now as a supporting member, and you'll receive the 2 videos of the program you're watching. Body, Mind, and Soul, The Mystery and Magic of Dr. Deepak Chopra. Both videos are complete and uninterrupted, and they're yours to keep when you become a supporting member. Call today. Our volunteers are standing by.
And we'd like you to consider, if you were able to attend a lecture by Dr. Deepak Chopra, what would those tickets cost? $50, $100 perhaps? Well, certainly this is coming to you. This lecture series is coming to you by members who are providing the funds so that we can go out and purchase these programs that you look forward to, programs that are perfect for the entire family. So if these are programs that you count on, please go ahead and go to the phone, call our wonderful volunteers. We were excited because we had 19 pledges during the last break, so we were very happy to welcome all of those members, all of those viewers as members. But again, if you've been sitting back waiting to think about becoming a member, think about doing it, perhaps this is your opportunity. Remember, basic membership does begin at just $35 or $25 for senior citizens. One of the benefits is, of course, our program guide. You're going to receive 12 monthly program guides, and that way you can stay right ahead of everything that's going on here at Channel 24. You'll be able to mark your calendar for great programs that you won't want to miss. Again, we have great thank you gifts this evening, 4 different pledge levels, but whatever level is best for you, it is vital that we do hear from you, that we do make those goals this evening, because it is the last pledge drive of our fiscal year. We do need to have the funds available when programs become available. So right now, we need to hear from you.
Well, the book Return of Merlin, we just had a volunteer who has a question here. The Return of Merlin fiction, the novel that Dr. Deepak Chopra has written, can be had for a pledge of $125, and his Ageless Body, Timeless Mind book is for a pledge of $80. So if you'd like to have either one of those, you can call the volunteers with the pledge at the appropriate level. Now, we've read names from all over Central Florida today as of people who've called in with membership pledges, because we serve 8 counties around Central Florida. And you can see on the monitor here that we have folks all over, from 6,700 members in Orange County, 2,400 in Seminole, Osceola County, almost 600, Brevard County, almost 4,900. And you'll be seeing here Volusia County. Also, we have members there, and Flagler and Sumter County, Polk and Lake County. Every member makes a big difference here at Channel 24, and whether your pledge is $25 or $30 or $35 or $150, we'd love to hear from you right now. As I was telling you before, we're losing $83,000 in federal funding cuts. At the same time, we're trying to keep our membership drives as short as possible. Right now, we spend less than 2% of our time on air asking for membership pledges, and we've reduced that time of fundraising this year alone by 19%. 10%. We'd like to keep it down to a low level of on-air fundraising, and you can help by calling in your pledge right now. Won't you do that at 282-2020?
A child's world is not like our world. Each day is a new life. Each moment is met with an open mind. And each corner is turned with curiosity. So doesn't it make sense, while the slate is still clean, to fill it with the brightest pictures and the nicest thoughts? It's what they'll always find on the children's programs of public television. For as long as they've been watching us, we've been watching over them.
And certainly we do hope perhaps members of your family do enjoy the children's programs, or perhaps you grew up watching Sesame Street and now your children enjoy that program. We do have a wide variety of programs for a wide variety of interests here at public television, because you see, if public television won't do it, who will? This is the station for wonderful varieties of programs. Certainly we are presenting Dr. Deepak Chopra this evening, a wonderful blend of Western science and Eastern philosophies. And we do hope you are enjoying and learning something this evening. If you would like to have the video cassettes of both programs this evening, remember it is for your pledge of $150. And you can have Body, Mind, and Soul Parts 1 and 2. And of course, Part 2 is coming up in just a couple of moments. But again, we are asking for your pledge of support, because we do bring these programs because there's such a wide acceptance for this. We had such an outpouring the other evening of pledges for this program. That's why it is our viewers' choice. So please do call us now.
That's right. We have about, let's see, 2 phones open right now for membership pledges. Won't you call us right now at 282-2020 or 1-800-785-2020. If you'd like to get the audio cassettes of Dr. Chopra's lecture, you can get those for a pledge of $80. Or you might be thinking about joining our business honor roll. For a pledge of $250, we can send you both the audio tapes and the videotapes of the program. You can join those companies like the ones that you see going by on your screen right now as a member of the business honor roll for a pledge of $250. It's an investment in the kinds of programming that you know you can count on Channel 24 to provide, whether it's great self-help programs like Dr. Deepak Chopra, how-to programs like The Frugal Gourmet or This Old House or Lawns and Gardens, Mystery, Nova, Masterpiece Theater, the McNeil Lehrer NewsHour, all of our great children's programs, all because of member support are we able to provide those for Central Florida. Your $250 Business Honor Roll membership will get your business's name on this honor roll tonight and tomorrow night, as well as the full 17 days of our December membership campaign. So if you give us your pledge right now, we'll acknowledge your membership at the Business Honor Roll during our next break and all during December. 282-2020 is the number to call. Make sure you give the volunteer your name as well as the name of your business as you would like it to appear on the honor roll. The numbers to call again, 282-2020, 1-800-785-2020. This is our last membership drive of the fiscal year, so if you can charge that pledge to Visa, MasterCard, or Discover, it will help us to get the money in-house so we know exactly what programs in the next couple of weeks that we'll be able to say yes to and which we'll be able to say no to. This is program planning time at Channel 24. And contracts have to be signed, and if we don't have the money in the house, we can't say yes. So help us say yes with your pledge at $250.
A special thanks to these WMFE Channel 24 sponsors, like Big Lots, Grand Eagle Snacks, Bailey Coffee Service, Pepsi, Peninsular Paper Company, PDQ Printing, Walmart, and Suntel Sales for providing our 800 number. Suntel provides long-distance services, voicemail, answering systems, sales, and maintenance.
And certainly, Kathy, the phones are ringing. That's music to our ears. Things are very busy.
Looks like there are only about 5 or 6 phones available.
Yeah, but certainly there are phones available, so people can call in. We do want to say special thank yous, first of all. We have to get a little business out of the way. And thanks to Calico Jacks. They are located at East 50 and Alafaya Trail. They've provided great snacks for our volunteers. And speaking of volunteers, they're very busy this evening. They're from the Learning Institute for Elders at UCF. We certainly thank them for their support this evening.
That's right.
And again, Kathy, let me read a few names
Sure.
because we have lots of new members. June Myers of Kissimmee, Robert Lazelle of Palm Bay, Sue and Arnold Brown of Ormond Beach, folks from all over Central
That's
Florida.
great.
Kathleen Reagan of Orlando, and Carol Warwick of Maitland.
Great, and I want to thank Denis Andretta from Orlando and Richard and Lynn Shields of Heathrow for calling in. Also want to remind you that tomorrow evening at 7:30 we have Best Travels in Europe, and at 9 o'clock Nature Symphony, so tune in then too.
This program is made possible by annual financial support from viewers like you.
Dr. Deepak Chopra, a world-renowned leader in the field of mind-body medicine. After teaching at Tufts and Boston University Schools of Medicine, he was chief of staff at New England Memorial Hospital, a best-selling author of 12 books, including Ageless Body, Timeless Mind, and Quantum Healing. He's the executive director for the Institute of Mind-Body Medicine in San Diego, California.
In the last session, I think I gave you a reasonable hypothesis to understand the body, mind, and the environment as a continuum. I thought we covered enough evidence to see that that, in fact, is a good probability that the distinction that we have between the body, the mind, and the environment as separate things is really an artificial one created by the interpretation of our perceptual experiences. That, in fact, these are all part of one network of energy and information that comes into existence from a field that is a priori, that is even before this continuum of energy and information. And that it is possible for human consciousness to even experience this reality, to have the experience of what is known as unity consciousness, where the observer and the observed become one, where the seer and the scenery become one. And this has frequently been referred to in spiritual traditions as the experience of love. Love not as a mere emotion, love not as a mere sentiment, but love as the ultimate truth at the heart of creation. Love as the experience of unity consciousness. Tagore, that great Indian poet whom I quoted last time, once said, "When I feel beauty, I know it as truth." And what is beauty? It is love at the heart of creation, this continuum of no separation. That even time, in fact, or the experience of time, is similarly self-engendered, because in reality, there is only eternity. Time is a perceptual experience. If you read Stephen Hawking's book, A Brief History of Time, and you read the introduction to that book by Carl Sagan, there's an extraordinary statement in that introduction. It says, Stephen Hawking set out to understand the mind of God. Stephen Hawking set out to understand the mind of God. As far as I know, there's only one other scientist who was audacious enough to make a similar statement. Albert Einstein once said, "I want to know God's thoughts. The rest are details." So what kind of conclusion does he come to when he sets out to understand the mind of God? He says, we live in a universe that has no beginning in time, that has no ending in time, that has no edges in space, and nothing for a creator to do. Now, please try and conceptualize that, and please try and visualize that. Please try and imagine that, and you'll find it's totally and utterly and completely impossible. How can you conceptualize or visualize something that never began? Scientists use the word Big Bang to, in the first 3 minutes, to postulate that the universe had a beginning, at least in space and time. But the fact is, you can't visualize that. It's non-visualizable. And the moment you compromise and say, perhaps there was a beginning, then of course your immediate dilemma is, if there was a beginning, what was there before the beginning? If there's an ending to this universe, then your immediate dilemma is, what's there after the ending? If there are edges in space, then what's there after the outermost edge? It turns out that quantum physics is not only stranger than we think it is, it's stranger than we can think. At least the way we can think linguistically, the way we can think in this verbally elite language of ours. But of course not in the mathematical language, which seems to be the language of nature. Mathematics is the language of nature, but mathematics in its equations, of course, always takes into account 0 and infinity, which are non-conceptualizable visually or at least linguistically. So we see that even the experience of time is created in our consciousness. It's a result. Our personal experience of time is a result of our own internal dialogue. A few years ago, I was traveling in Germany, and a physician friend of mine drew my attention to a news report. It was about 7 miners that had been trapped in a mine. And they knew that they had very limited amount of time because they had limited access to oxygen. And only one of the miners had a watch. And in order to allay the anxieties of the others, every time 2 hours went by, he would call out 1 hour. At the end of the week, they were all rescued, and they were all alive, except for the fellow who was calling out the time. He had them change their subjective experience of time. But of course, he measured his own experience by looking at a watch, even though he had the rest of them change their subjective experience of time. Time is a subjective experience, and you cannot measure subjective experiences. A great English physicist, Sir Arthur Eddington, he said, trying to measure a subjective experience is like trying to figure out the square root of a sonnet. You can't do it. You cannot do it. You may find some objective correlates. And yet time, feelings, emotions, desires, these all occur in this quantum realm of consciousness. So in order to just summarize what we have covered so far, I'd like to go over a few principles. And let's see if we can look at these a little carefully. The physical world, including our bodies, is actually a response of the observer. Intrinsically, it's a radically ambiguous and ceaselessly flowing quantum soup. You and I are like magicians, like King Midas, who could never know the texture of a rose or the soft caress of a kiss because everything he touched turned into gold. Similarly, in our usual state of consciousness, our waking state of consciousness, we leave aside other realms of consciousness that seers and sages have talked about for thousands of years. There's an ancient expression, infinite worlds come and go in the vast expanse of my consciousness. They're like motes of dust dancing in a beam of light that's shining through a hole in the roof. Leaving aside that, in our ordinary, usual, waking state of consciousness, we can never know the true texture of quantum reality, because even as we turn to perceive it, we break it up into material reality, into time-bound reality. And that time-bound physical world is a response of the observer, and how the observer uses the instruments of observation, the nervous system. But in its essential state, our body, as well as the universe, is made up of energy and information, not solid matter. All our technologies are based on this presumption, that in its essential state, this is a non-material, non-physical universe. That the mind and the body are inseparably one. They are the same thing in different disguises. The mind is a field of information and energy being experienced subjectively. The body and the world is the same field of energy and information being experienced objectively. that even the biochemistry of the body is influenced by awareness. We saw that in those experiments with rabbits and tactile kinesthetic stimulation, etc. Sensory modulation, how we utilize or experience our sensors. Our sensors are transducers that take the energy of the universe. So our sensors, for example, the ears, are transducers, electronic transducers that convert mechanical energy into electrical energy in the brain. Our nose and smell receptors convert chemical energy into electrical energy ultimately in the brain. Our eyes are receptors that convert electromagnetic radiation into electrical energy in the brain. These are transducers. And this experience that we have of the flood of hormones in our system is really, or flux of chemicals in our system, is really the way we metabolize our sensory experience. If I say to somebody, you have cancer, immediately there's a rush of toxic chemicals in their body as a result of the fear that's generated. If I say to someone, I love you, there's a completely different response. But as far as the ear is concerned, all it gets is mechanical energy, vibration. A few years ago, I used to volunteer at an AIDS clinic, and they had a silly custom. On Monday mornings, they would take the blood tests of all the patients. Wednesday, they would announce them. So the doctor would sit here, and all the patients would sit in a circle, because the doctor would pick up a piece of paper, and he'd say, John? He'd look at John and say, negative. And you would see John's whole body immediately. You could see the flush of energy and life in that body. Then he'd take another piece of paper, and he'd say, George, positive. And you would see the rush of toxic chemicals in this person's body. You could see the life ebbing out of this person. You could see him actually dying before your eyes. And I asked myself, what's the difference in the vibration of the atmosphere when you say the word positive and compare it with this word negative? They're just little vibrations in the atmosphere. They tickle a few hairs in your internal auditory canal. There's a little blip of electricity. The input is identical. In fact, you could produce the identical input with those words positive and negative. And yet the output is radically different. So somewhere there's been a detour. And that detour is not in the material realm. It's in the quantum mechanical realm. It's in that field which is beyond both body and mind. And even the biochemistry of our body is a product of this awareness. That perception, even though it appears to be automatic, is a learned phenomenon. We learn how to perceive as a result of our cultural indoctrination, our social indoctrination, our evolutionary history, etc. In reality, impulses of intelligence create our body in new forms every second. Impulses of intelligence are impulses of information and energy. They are our thoughts and feelings and emotions and desires. That although each of us seems to be separate and independent, all of us are connected to patterns of intelligence that govern the whole cosmos. That there are no well-defined edges to the quantum mechanical body. We are localized bundles of information and energy in a universe of information and energy. This universe is alive with information and energy. But it's not ordinary information and energy. It's information and energy that feeds back upon itself and influences its own expression, which is evolution. Evolution is nothing other than the ability to change the expression of information and energy. So we can't call it just information and energy. It's intelligence. This is an intelligence universe. And we are conscious beings in a conscious universe. And the human nervous system is that privileged organ of nature through which the universe itself is becoming conscious of itself. The universe is becoming conscious through you and me. And that is the privilege we have as this human species. that although we seem to be separate, we aren't. We are, as the great American poet said, every atom belonging to you belongs to me. That even time does not exist as an absolute, only eternity. Time is quantified eternity, as it is quantified in consciousness. Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, once said, this lifetime of ours is like a flash of lightning in the sky. He said, this lifetime of ours is as transient as autumn clouds. To watch the birth and death of beings is like watching the movements of a dance. A lifetime rushes by like a torrent down a steep mountain. But we identify ourselves with our self-image and not with ourself. That's why we get the experience of time. That in reality, there is only eternity. That each of us inhabits a reality which is, in fact, beyond all change. And I'm going to come to that. I'm going to come to that very important point, because there is a component here, a component of existence that is beyond change. And that, for lack of a better word, we can call the soul or the spirit. Now, of course, if you go to a scientist and you say, you have a soul, the scientist will usually respond by saying, I'd like to believe that. Show me where it is. Scientists would say that of the mind as well, because as you probably will have figured out, there's no real proof that the mind exists, no scientific proof. We have only circumstantial evidence that the mind exists. And yet, if it weren't for the invisible animating force of mind, we would all be paralyzed. I wouldn't be able to speak to you. I wouldn't be able to move here. So thoughts have an animating force, an invisible animating force, without which we would be paralyzed. And yet you can't document scientifically that this thing actually exists, because you cannot see it under a microscope. So the same thing holds true of a soul. What is the soul? The soul, every religious tradition, every spiritual tradition, every part of the world has called it the animating force of life. It holds the integrity of the body and mind, and when it leaves, of course, then the body disintegrates, because this was the animating force. In the last century, scientists who were intrigued by the notion of soul would actually weigh a person sometimes just before they died, and then they weighed them immediately afterwards to see if something left. But since they didn't find any difference in the weight, at least they came to a reasonably good conclusion. If you have a soul, it probably doesn't weigh anything. In our own century, there was a brilliant scientist. His name was Wilder Penfield, and for 30 years, he looked at, this question. Where is the thinker of the thought? Who is the thinker of the thought? Because I'm not my thoughts. I'm the one who's having the thoughts. I'm not my emotions. I'm the one who's experiencing my emotions. I'm not this body. I'm the one who's having the experience of this body. The body is an experience. The mind is an experience. The world is the experience. But where's the experiencer? Dr. Penfield was very interested in finding the soul, in finding the experiencer. And when he would operate on his patients, he would stimulate different parts of the brain to see what was happening. Dr. Penfield would do operations under local anesthesia, because the brain is that part of the body where you can, in fact, stimulate different parts of the body, of the brain, without causing any discomfort or pain. The brain doesn't have any pain receptors. And one day, Dr. Penfield was operating on a young woman, and he touched a part of the brain, and the patient was immediately transported to a previous experience. She found herself in a kitchen cooking food for dinner, and she heard herself listening to her children playing in the yard, and actually she even experienced herself worrying that they would be run over by the traffic. And Dr. Penfield asked the patient, are you really in the kitchen? And she said, no, I'm speaking to you, and you're doing surgery. And Dr. Penfield said, this person is having two experiences at the same time. On the one hand, she's in the kitchen, and on the other hand, she's speaking to me. In other words, there's a silent witness behind the scenes that knows that this is the sensory experience, but this is the reality. Another time, he was operating on a young man, and he was immediately in the middle of a baseball game. He suddenly had the experience of a baseball game that he had seen 20 years ago, and even saw a little kid coming through the fence into the crowd, and at the same time he was aware that Dr. Penfield was operating on him. But he was able to make the interpretation that this was a hallucination and this was reality. And Dr. Penfield wondered to himself, where's the interpreter and who's the interpreter? Another time, Dr. Penfield was operating on a young man. He was stimulating a part of the brain known as the motor cortex. And as he was doing so, the patient's arm started going up like this, and Dr. Penfield asked the patient, what's happening? The patient said, my arm is moving up. And Dr. Penfield asked the patient, are you moving the arm? He said, no, you're moving it for me by stimulating the brain. And then actually what the patient did was he reached out with his other arm and prevented the arm from moving, even though Dr. Penfield was stimulating the brain. And Dr. Penfield wondered to himself, he said, the brain is telling the body to move, but there's somebody that's telling the brain, I won't let you do it. Who's this choice maker, and where's this choice maker? You and I are essentially interpreters and choice makers. In every moment of our existence, we're making interpretations and we're making choices. We are the thinker of the thought. We're not the thought. And if you're sitting out there and you're saying, I doubt everything that you're saying, I don't believe any of this, then that's who you are, the doubter. As long as there's a doubt, it implies the existence of a doubter, the thinker of the thought. Where is this thinker? Where's the soul? Why can't we find it in the body? Dr. Penfield said, I can't find it in the body. And the crucial question is, why can't we?
And of course, we will be going back to more of this wonderful lecture by Dr. Deepak Chopra in just a couple of moments. Now, again, we understand that the lecture by Dr. Chopra that was held here in Orlando was very quickly sold out last year. And if you were lucky enough to be there, well, congratulations. But this evening, you have a front row seat, the best seat in the house for this lecture. So we hope if you consider what a ticket to a lecture like this would cost, well, take those funds and become a member of this station. Say yes to Channel 24. Thank you for providing these programs. We want to see more programs like this. And I'm going to call in with my pledge of support. It takes just a couple of moments out of your evening. We have great volunteers here. We've had an overwhelming response. We're very happy for that. But we are working on a goal, of course, for these programs, and that goal is $7,500. And as you see, yes, we've come quite a ways. $3,860, thanks to so many of you in Central Florida that have called in. But we need you to take just those couple of minutes out of your evening and dial those numbers. Become a member of the Channel 24 family. We need your support this evening.
Join us now as a supporting member, and you'll receive the 2 videos of the program you're watching, Body, Mind, and Soul, the mystery and magic of Dr. Deepak Chopra. Both videos are complete and uninterrupted, and they're yours to keep when you become a supporting member. Call today. Our volunteers are standing by.
Well, you know, Carol, we've had so many people who called. In fact, we've had 50 people who called in support of this program so far.
That's a wonderful response.
It is, and it goes to show that people are really interested in entertaining but educational programming. And that really does my heart good since I work here, but it really also makes me proud of the fact that Channel 24 is able to provide programming that's not available anywhere else.
Oh, that's absolutely right. And certainly we do want to thank everyone. They're calling in from all over Central Florida. We want to say special welcomes to new members and renewing members. Let's not forget them. Raman N. Patel from Oviedo, Karen Harms of Orlando, Thank you to Evelyn Hudson of Orlando, to Donna Kearns of Longwood. We'd like to say a special thank you to Reverend Bruce G. McGraw of Holly Hill, to Leonard Foltz of Orlando, Heather Brown of Winter Park, and Jackie Oliver of Mount Dora. As you see, over $4,000 so far has been raised.
Yeah, that's really great. I have some people, too. I want to thank Livia Baldridge of Kissimmee, Joanne Camp from Winter Springs, Barbara Simons from Longwood, Harry Boyle of Ormond Beach, Ann Cutts of Orlando, Hugh and Lynn Normels from Indialantic, and Ronald Hodges called in, and he has a very special message. He's issuing a personal challenge to several of his friends and relatives who told him that they were watching the program this evening, and he called and made his pledge and is challenging those folks to call and do the same.
And you know, Kathy and I were talking about this. I have two friends that mentioned they were going to be watching the programs, Brad and John out there. I know you're watching, and I haven't seen their names on a pledge form yet tonight, Kathy, so I expect them to be calling up. Oh, I hope that's one of them right there.
Yeah,
so,
I hope it is too, because I know Brad and John, you were telling me that they watch a lot of public television.
They certainly do, and they always kid me about it when they see me on asking for pledges of support. You know, I have to kind of say, well, did you call? And of course, they haven't called yet, but I know they're going to call now.
They will call tonight. You just have to give them that positive, you know, the vibes.
Right.
For them to call. The numbers are on your screen, Brad and John. So call 282-2020 or 1-800-785-2020. This is the last membership drive of our fiscal year. We have just today and tomorrow. We have a $189,000 goal for the drive. And if you can charge your pledge to Visa, MasterCard, or Discover, it really would help, because we have programming decisions to make in the next couple of weeks, and having the money in-house will make those decisions a whole lot easier. So call now.
What saves you the time and inconvenience of writing checks, gives you an annual statement for income tax purposes, and helps you budget your contributions to Channel 24? The Easy Membership Plan. Easy Membership allows you to divide your contribution into monthly payments that you authorize to be transferred from your checking account directly to WMFE. For example, a $60 membership breaks down to just $5 a month. Call now and make that pledge in support of Channel 24 easily with the Easy Membership Plan.
IRS regulations on the tax deductibility of your membership contributions state that you may deduct the amount of your contributions during the year minus the fair market value of any gifts you received. For tax purposes, WMFE will send you a statement at the end of January indicating the total contributed during the year and listing all gifts and their fair market value. You can deduct the entire amount of your membership contribution by declining to receive any thank you gifts. You get a greater tax deduction, and we can put more money toward the programs you enjoy.
Well, we have 10 calls in progress right now. We still have about 3 or 4 volunteers available to take your call. 282-2020 is the number. We have a goal of $7,500, and right now we're at $4,340 pledged. Federal funding for public broadcasting, I'm sure you've heard in the news, is in jeopardy. In fact, Congress has already voted to decrease federal funding for public broadcasting for this coming year, and $83,000 that we were counting on from our federal funding grant to purchase programs like Deepak Chopra's Body, Mind, and Soul is going away. We have to replace that with membership revenue from individuals like you and me who enjoy the programs. And at the same time, we're losing that federal funding. Our public broadcasting system bill for programs is going up by $52,000. So you see, we have $135,000 to replace before we can even begin to start, you know, making the same kind of inroads on paying for programming that we were able to do this year. So your membership pledge right now at any level is very, very important. Why don't you call now and join folks like Ruth Krause of Port Orange, who called in, and Edward and Patricia Lindquist of Orlando, brand new members, Helen Ryden of Merritt Island, Wanda Helvey from Winter Park, Larry Tannenbaum from Orlando, and Carmen Craig of Tavares. They all called in their support this evening, and we'd like to add your name to the membership list because we think you're a very important part of the family. Remember, for an $80 pledge, we can send you Deepak Chopra's Ageless Body, Timeless Mind bestseller, and you can have that for your pledge of $80. Give us a call.
We do hope you will call. We do have some phones available, but right now we do want to say a special thank you, of course, to Calico Jacks. They're located at 50 and Alafaya Trail. They've provided wonderful snacks for us this evening, thanks to Calico Jacks. And, of course, the volunteers who have been very, very busy this evening, I'm happy to say. They're from the Learning Institute for Elders at UCF. We certainly appreciate them spending their evening with us this evening and taking your pledges of support. Remember, a $200 pledge this evening, you'll receive both video cassettes of the program as well as both audio cassettes. This is a wonderful grouping of Deepak Chopra's philosophies and the programs that you're enjoying this evening, and this is for your pledge of $200. Now remember, you can charge that pledge. It's very simple on your MasterCard, Visa, or Discover card. Think about using your Easy membership plan, and that way you can spread out the payments over the course of the entire year. It is just that simple. Of course, the volunteers have all the different thank you gifts that they can tell you about at the different pledge levels. Remember, we do have a basic membership of $35. Maybe that's the perfect way for you to begin as a member of this station. Over $5,000 has been raised. That's terrific. That's wonderful news for us, because we are staying on track to provide these programs for you. We can do it with your support, Central Florida, so we do need to hear from all of you that enjoy this programming.
Join us now as a supporting member, and you'll receive the 2 videos of the program you're watching. Body, Mind, and Soul, the mystery and magic of Dr. Deepak Chopra. Both videos are complete and uninterrupted, and they're yours to keep when you become a supporting member. Call today. Our volunteers are standing by.
Well, tomorrow afternoon from noon to 6, we have the American Experience Special, the 4-part series on Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I know you'll find that very enlightening as well as educational, too. You'll see how he went through World War II and all of the background information about his presidency. And tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock, we have Glenn Miller's Greatest Hits. And at 7:30, you'll travel through Europe with the best of travels in Europe. At 9 o'clock, a beautiful program called Nature Symphony. You'll see great nature scenes and beautiful classical music and not a word of narration. It's a fabulous program, very inspirational and relaxing. Right now, if you're enjoying Dr. Deepak Chopra's program, we can send you the 2 videotapes, 2 one-hour videotapes of both lectures that you're seeing this evening for a pledge of $150. If you charge that to Visa, MasterCard, or Discover, it will help us to make programming decisions in the next couple of weeks. If you'd like to put it on Easy membership, you can do that at just $12.50 a month. Now, everyone who pledges $35 or more will receive 12 issues of our monthly program guide, and all new members from this membership campaign will automatically receive our September guide, so that you'll know all the programs that you're making possible. Give us a call and join the family. We want to hear from you right now.
So the soul has been referred to as the thinker of the thought, the animating force. And we saw that both from Dr. Penfield's experiments and other pioneers in this field of mind-body investigation, if you will, it cannot be found anywhere in the body. You can't find this ghost in this machine through all the technology that we have. Today, it's possible through sophisticated technologies to measure the effects of a flicker of an intention, a microsecond after it's made. You can measure the effects of a flicker of an intention a microsecond after it's made. But the question is, whose intention? And where's this person? You can't find this person inside the body. This person, the essential me, that's an interpreter and a choice maker. You can't find the real me, the interpreter and choice maker in this body. Why can't you find me in my body? And the answer to that may be relatively simple. The reason that you can't find the real me in my body is that I'm not really here. today, if you go to any bookstore, go to the metaphysics section, and you'll find a number of books on so-called out-of-body experiences, when the real mystery, of course, is how do we get an in-body experience? Because technically speaking, we're not here. Anyone who has delved a little bit into spiritual literature, and by spiritual literature, I certainly don't mean the latest New Age bestseller. By spiritual literature, I mean those bodies of literature that gave rise to the great religions of the world, like Judaism and Christianity and Islam and Buddhism and Hinduism and Zen and the great religions that are everywhere and are the cultural heritage of humanity. Anyone who's delved into that kind of literature will come across an expression which says, we are in this world, but not of it. In this world, but not of it. Perhaps that's not a metaphor either. Perhaps we can find a basis for that statement. Imagine that you're listening to Beethoven on the radio, and you tear the radio apart, hoping to find Beethoven inside the radio. You're not going to find him there for the simple reason that he's not there. The radio is an instrument that traps a non-local field of energy and information into a space-time event. So, since I've introduced these terms, let me explain what these terms mean. A space-time event. A space-time event is any event that has a location in space and exists in moments of time. So, this here is a space-time event. It has this location in space. It has moments in time in that there was a time it didn't exist, and you can be sure there will be a time that it won't exist. This physical body that I'm using to manufacture this talk is also a continuum of space-time events. It occupies different locations in space. It has moments in time. It had a beginning, it has a middle, and it disappears after a while. This body, for example, started out as a speck of information on DNA. Then people started adding food to it, and I have this thing now that moves around, gives manufactures lectures and writes books. So it's a space-time event. The radio is an instrument that takes a non-local field of energy and information. Non-local in that you cannot localize it in either space or time, and traps it into space-time. If you had the radio in New York City, the symphony would be in New York City. If you had the radio in London, the symphony would be in London. If you had the radio, the instrument on the moon, then the symphony would be on the moon. And if you had the instrument in another galaxy, 100 million light years away, then that symphony would be in a different dimension of time. Because 100 million light years away is a different dimension of time. Time is a way of measuring space, just like space is a way of measuring time. So, like that, the real you is non-local. The animating force of life is non-local, not trapped in space and time. The body, the nervous system is the instrument that gives it space-time experience. But the real you is non-local. The great Sufi poet Rumi again, he says, in a very elegant poetry, he says, you are the unconditioned spirit that's trapped in conditions, like the sun in eclipse. In another place, he says, when I die, I shall soar with angels, but when I die as an angel, what I shall become, you cannot imagine. Because I'm not in space or time. Ancient traditions, when they speak of the soul, they say it's spaceless, it's timeless, it's dimensionless. In the Vedic tradition, when we hear its description, the description says, fire cannot burn it, water cannot wet it, wind cannot dry it, weapons cannot cleave it, because it's ancient, it's unborn, it never dies. Pretty close to the definition of the field by modern scientists. Pretty close to Stephen Hawking's description of the universe. It has no beginning in time, no ending in time, no edges in space. That's pretty close to the ancient description of the animating force of life itself. Spaceless and timeless and dimensionless and the abstract, and yet the ultimate source of creation. The thinker of the thought, the choice maker, the interpreter, giving rise to space and time. I think we see a very good agreement here between what science, with its modern insight, has to say, and what spirituality and spiritual traditions, with their ancient wisdom, have to say. They're speaking about the same thing. And if you say, well, if I'm not in this body, then where am I? The answer to that seems to be, it's the wrong question. Because as soon as you say where, you imply a location to something in space that doesn't have space. You imply a location in space to something that doesn't occupy space. And you imply moments in time to something that's timeless. And yet, you. The closest we can get to this, and the way we can access this realm of our own awareness, so to speak, the thinker of the thought, is through the silent spaces between thoughts. Because between every thought that we have is a space where we manufacture the thought. So let me see if I can explain this a little graphically. In every space between every thought is the thinker of the thought. This is a thought, let's say. I'm going to have chocolate ice cream. This is a thought. I'm going to make a phone call. This is a thought. I'm going to take off my shoes. Well, between this thought and this thought is me that has the thought, is the thinker of the thought. So the thinker of the thought is in the spaces between thoughts. And it has two characteristics to it. Number one, it is silent. It has to be silent because if it's not, then it's no longer the thinker, it becomes the thought. Number two, it's a field of infinite possibilities. Infinite possibilities, infinite potentiality. Why? Because between this thought and this thought is the possibility of any thought. Between this thought and this thought, I have the freedom to choose. So the thinker that is manufacturing my thoughts and the thinker that's interpreting my thoughts right now there are both silent fields of infinite possibilities. Is it possible there's only one thinker? Is it possible the same thinker that is manufacturing these thoughts is the one that's interpreting those thoughts? Is it all self-interaction? And some people would say yes. And yet we know that there is a difference. You and I are different because even though we are fields of infinite possibilities and pure potentiality, in the silent space between thoughts, we don't usually make the same choices, even though we are infinite choice makers. I see a snowstorm, and the thought comes, maybe I should be in Hawaii. And you see a snowstorm, and the thought may come, maybe I should be skiing. Somebody else sees the same snowstorm, and they think, snowman or snow fight. So even though the space between thoughts is a field of infinite possibilities, there's a different probability amplitude. A probability amplitude is that which defines the statistical likelihood of the next space-time event. In this case, the next thought which leads to the next action that leads to the next life experience. You and I are different because we are different probability amplitudes in that field of all possibilities. So what gives rise to the different probability amplitude? And here I'm going to invoke an Eastern term that seems pretty scary to those people who don't really know what it means. The term in Sanskrit is karma. The word karma has very frequently been translated as destiny, but it's not. In fact, it's the exact opposite. If anything, karma is the ultimate affirmation of free will and choice. Karma simply means action. So if you have a cup of coffee, technically speaking, that's a karmic episode. Any action is karma. And action generates memory. If I have a cup of coffee, I know what coffee tastes like. Memory becomes the basis of desire. I might want to have coffee again, maybe this time a cappuccino or decaf. And desire, of course, generates action again. Memory, desire, and action. These are the software of the soul. The operational software in the space between thoughts. You and I are continuums of probability amplitudes in the silent spaces between thoughts as a result of our experiences. What makes you different from me is that we have metabolized different experiences in our past. We have walked through different gardens. We've knelt at different graves. We've heard different songs. We've met different people. We've read different books. We've been brought up in certain cultures. We have metabolized every wisp of experience that has come our way, and we've converted into this software that runs the machinery of our life. To become aware of this is to be free of this, because it immediately shows you that this is just a probability amplitude in a field of infinite possibilities. I was going to make a right turn, but now I know that that was just an automatic response as a result of my past experience. I don't have to make a right turn. I can make a left turn. I can stand on my head. I can go back. I can take a helicopter. There are infinite things I can do right this moment. So to know it is to be free of it. To know that this is the software of the soul, to recognize that is to be free of it. Back to that same expression that I used earlier. I use memories, but I do not allow memories to use me. In this new model, then, we see the soul having this software transforming itself into fields of energy and information that express themselves as thoughts, feelings, emotions, desires, etc. That then transforming itself into the biochemistry, the neurotransmitters and peptides, and that then transforming itself into biochemical responses, physiological responses, behavioral responses, experience of the world. But we see that there is one continuum, and that the soul, therefore, is a real entity, and it fits in our model of non-local reality. Non-local reality precipitating as space-time events that we call experience. In fact, those people who look at this model, and a number of scientists have explored this model, to mention a few, people like Carl Pribram and also David Bohm, the eminent physicist, have spoken of the holographic model for memory. And I think everyone in this room is probably aware of what a hologram is. A hologram is, to put it simply, a three-dimensional projection of memory. You must have seen holograms in science museums and in Disney World and probably on your MasterCard or Visa. Hologram is a three-dimensional projection of memory. If you wanted to make a hologram of me, for example, what you would do is the following. Let's assume for a moment that this is me, and you want to make a hologram of me. You'd put a laser beam through an instrument which is known as a beam splitter. The beam splitter splits the beam, the laser beam, which is a beam that has one frequency of light, into two beams. One's called an object beam, the other's called a reference beam. The object beam comes at the object, let's say that's me. It scatters into scattered light. The reference beam bounces off a mirror, interferes with the scattered object beam, and creates an interference pattern, which can then be recorded on a photographic plate. Nothing mysterious about this. Looks like a bunch of wiggles and squiggles. But now the magic begins. You take that photographic plate with its interference pattern, and you put a laser beam through it, and you'll get a three-dimensional projection of me similar to me out there as a space-time event. And if the hologram is well made, then you can't tell the difference between me and my hologram. For example, the earlier lecture that you heard was me. This is a hologram, and you don't know the difference. A few months ago, I was meditating, and I had this brilliant insight, even though I'm saying so myself. You know, once in a while, you get these insights, and you know they're true. I had this insight that within 5 years, we'll have the technology to make perfect holograms of ourselves. But not only that, we'll be able to fax them anywhere we want. Then we can simultaneously be in many places, and the crucial question then will be, which one is the real you? In any case, there's something very mysterious about this hologram, because if you took a scissors and you cut up this, this photographic plate with its interference pattern into 1,000,000 bits, or 1,000,000,000 bits, or 1,000,000,000,000 bits, or 1,000,000,000, billion, trillion, trillion bits, and you took the teeniest, weeniest bit of it, put a laser beam through it, you'll get all of me all over again. That's why it's called a hologram. All of it is in every bit of it. All of it is in every bit of it. In fact, every bit of the hologram is the whole thing from a different perspective. And the reason I'm saying this to you, I'm going in such detail, is that scientists are suggesting that holographic memory is what this body is. That you and I have not only personal memories, but impersonal memories. Memories go back to a long time, our childhood, intrauterine life, but because you cannot squeeze the soul into the volume of a body or the span of a lifetime, being non-local, spaceless and timeless, they go back eons of time. And they find that expression through the nervous system into the body, that each cell is a hologram of the entire universe, both personal and impersonal memories. And of course, scientists will tell you that there's a popular phrase in science, in anthropology and developmental sciences, ontogeny replicates phylogeny, which means even as this lifetime's experience, from the fetus to the adult or to the fully developed baby, we replicate the experiences of our species and other species. We have a reptilian brain, we have an amphibian brain, we have the memories of everything that has happened in the entire evolutionary history of not only mankind, but other species as well. And then these memories go back a long time. A few years ago, I was explaining this model to my friend Wayne Dyer, the eminent psychologist. I said, Wayne, do you understand the holographic memory model? He said, of course I do. I went to this, I remember the day of my conception. I said, you do? He said, yes. I went to this picnic with my father and came back with my mother. Now, if you go a little beyond that, you may actually bump into yourself. You may bump into yourself. Because your real self is beyond the memory. It's not the experience, it's the one who's having the experience. And the one who's having the experience, the experiencer, is the timeless factor in every time-bound experience. The experiencer is the timeless factor in every time-bound experience. And that's who you and I really are. This is the basis of healing, too. The word healing, it comes from the word holy, or whole, or wholeness. Healing in this model is nothing other than the return of the memory of wholeness. And when you remember who you really are, then technically speaking, you're healed. Because there's no fear. When you know that there's a part of you that transcends mortality, that transcends time, that in fact, the real you is beyond space and time. The Ayurvedic expression is, as is the atom, so is the universe. As is the microcosm, so is the macrocosm. As is the human body, so is the cosmic body. As is the human mind, so is the cosmic mind. And if you don't like the word cosmic mind, then you can call it a non-local field of energy and information with self-referral cybernetic feedback loops. And if you don't like the word soul, you can call it a continuum of probability amplitudes through which this non-local field is manifesting holographically as space-time events. We changed the language, but we're speaking about the same thing. We changed the language, we're speaking about the same thing. William Blake again. What does he say? To see the whole world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. These are holographic descriptions. That you and I are not only made up of the same stuff, the same recycled elements on the periodic table, but the same being in different disguises. And when we know that experientially, then we feel holy, we feel healed, because it's a sacred event to have that transformation of our internal reference point is no longer our self-image, but the self. A Vedic expression says, in Indra's heaven, there's a set of pearls so contained. Pick up one of them and you'll see all of them. That's a holographic description of the universe as well. So I think we have to redefine what it means to be healed. Healing is the loss of fear that comes about when we lose our fear of change because we've discovered a part of ourselves that is beyond change.
Well, don't go anywhere, because there's still another segment of Dr. Deepak Chopra's lecture on body, mind, and soul. And he's been kind of taking us through an analysis of how the body, mind, and soul work together in a partnership to make us who we are, and how we're a product of our experiences and our perceptions of the experiences that happen to us. Well, public television is really a partnership too. It's a partnership that embodies us as a public television station who can locate programs like Body, Mind, and Soul. You as a member of Channel 24 who helps to give us the revenue that it takes to put that programming on the air, and of course all the viewers who watch and appreciate and enjoy the programs. Won't you join us as a special part of that partnership right now? Change your viewership into membership by calling 282-2020 or 1-800-785-2020. I can tell you, once you become a member and you get the program guide in your home every month, number one, you'll watch a lot more programming because you'll be able to plan your viewing a month in advance, but you'll also feel really good about making sure that you're part of providing such quality programming for Central Florida. You know, you wouldn't find this program anywhere on commercial television. You wouldn't find it on cable unless, of course, they were trying to sell you something. So public television is your source for this kind of educational programming. Give us a call right now.
Join us now as a supporting member, and you'll receive the 2 videos of the program you're watching. Body, Mind, and Soul, the mystery and magic of Dr. Deepak Chopra. Both videos are complete and uninterrupted, and they're yours to keep when you become a supporting member. Call today. Our volunteers are standing by.
And we do have lots of reasons to ask for you to become members this evening. And certainly one of them is the fact that we will be losing federal funding in this upcoming year. Yes, we do know absolutely for a fact we will be losing $83,000 in federal funding. That's funds we were counting on to provide great programs. Well, not only that, but you see, our programming costs, of course, are going up over $50,000. So if you do the math, you certainly can see we are counting on you, the viewers, to become members of this station. Now, maybe you'd like to call in and request Dr. Chopra's Ageless Body, Timeless Mind book. This is an $80 level pledge. Some of the chapters in this, the first chapter, The Land Where No One Is Old, Aging and Awareness, chapters like The Science of Longevity, Breaking the Spell of Mortality, and this is a best-selling book, and it can be sent right out to you when you do call in and pledge at the $80 level. There it is, Ageless Body, Timeless Mind. Wonderful philosophies, great information that I'm sure you're enjoying this evening, and you can have this book and be a member of this station. Help us reach those goals and keep these great programs coming. Now, we do have wonderful volunteers. We have quite a few phones open right now, so it is your opportunity to call.
That's right, and we have, 5, 6 folks on the phone right now. We have a $7,500 goal for this program. Already we're at $6,550. Thanks so much to all of you who've called in. You're sending a strong message to our programming department that this kind of programming is important to you. And you know why that's important to us? Because as a public television station, we listen to our viewers. There's no other station here in town who comes to you directly and says, okay, what would you like to see on on this station and gives you the means to be able to let that be known to them. Here at Public Television, we don't have advertising dollars to rely on to pay for the programs. We don't have to pay attention to the ratings. We can supply these programs to you as a discriminating audience, and you in return give us your membership pledges so that we can afford to purchase more programs like this. Now, for a pledge of $80, we can send you the audio cassettes of Body, Mind, and Soul. You might like to take those along as you travel to work. You can put them in your car so you can listen to Dr. Chopra's message, or maybe as you're traveling around, if you're a salesperson, you're on the road a lot, you can use them as a way to get away from the hustle and bustle of all the things that are going on in your life. 282-2020 is the number. If you'd like to have the videotapes and the audio cassettes, that we can send those your way for a pledge of $200. Give us a call. We'd love to hear from you.
Many employers in Central Florida will match their employees' pledge to Channel 24. Some match dollar for dollar, some 2 for 1. Some of these companies are IBM, Bell South, McDonald's, United Technologies, IDS Financial Services, and UPS. This is one case where you can really stretch your dollars and make them go twice as far.
And we are asking for your pledges of support this evening, but in return, we are making a pledge to you to spend less time on air asking for those pledges of support, spending less time fundraising in this format. So certainly when we reach those goals a little bit faster, when we stay on track, we can cut down the time that we ask for those pledges of support. Some of the folks we do want to thank, Lydia Lavasseur of Orlando. Thank you so much to John Allen of Altamont Springs, George Vanderhall of Cocoa, Denise Defoe of Lake Mary. Thank you to Esther Portis of Orlando and to Suzanne McNeil, again of Orlando. They are new members or perhaps renewing members in this station. So if you have been a member and perhaps your membership lapsed, why not renew that membership this evening with your pledge of support? We do have Dr. Chopra's novel, The Return of Merlin. This is a $125 level pledge. This is a fabulous novel, a bestseller. It's just been printed in 1995, and there's been a lot of interest here in the studio in this. It is the story of the Arthur legends as interpreted by Dr. Chopra. So if you're fascinated by this, it's an interesting book. Ask for this at the $125 level. If you'd like to use Easy Pay, perhaps you could just go ahead and do that and spread out that amount over 12 easy monthly installments. So call us now.
That's right. It takes just a minute to make your pledge. Remember, you can pay by check. You can charge to Visa, MasterCard, or Discover, or spread your payments out over a year using our Easy membership plan. The volunteers can tell you how that works. We have 8 counties in Central Florida to serve here at Channel 24, and we have members in all of those counties. You can see here Orange, Seminole, Osceola, and Brevard County, the number of members that we have there. And in Volusia, Polk County, and Flagler and Sumter County are really special to us because we only reach the folks in the southern portions of those counties and only by cable. So we're real proud to have 117 folks in Polk County and 231 in Flagler and Sumter County who support Channel 24. Why don't you join some of these folks? Les and Polly Houghton of Apopka called in, renewing their membership this evening. Evelyn Harden of Edgewater called in as a new member. Eleanor Ewell from Holly Hill called in, also a new member. Ann Davis of Satellite Beach renewing this afternoon. And Rita San Carlo from Winter Garden, another new member. Rita Book of Daytona Beach called and renewed her membership. You can join them with a pledge at any level, whatever is comfortable for your budget. Every dollar makes a big difference, and every dollar is sincerely appreciated here at Channel 24. We have $7,045 pledged so far. This really is wonderful this evening because so many of you have called to let us know how much you're enjoying this program. Remember, you can have the programs, both of them, for a pledge of $150 to share with your friends or relatives and help them make a difference in their lives too.
What saves you the time and inconvenience of writing checks, gives you an annual statement for income tax purposes, and helps you budget your contributions to Channel 24? The Easy Membership Plan. Easy Membership allows you to divide your contribution into monthly payments that you authorize to be transferred from your checking account directly to WMFE. For example, a $60 membership breaks down to just $5 a month. Call now and make that pledge in support of Channel 24 easily with the Easy Membership Plan.
A special thanks to these WMFE Channel 24 sponsors like Big Lots, Grand Eagle Snacks, Bailey Coffee Service, Pepsi, Peninsular Paper Company, PDQ Printing, Walmart, and Suntel Sales for providing our 800 number. Suntel provides long-distance services, voicemail, answering systems, sales, and maintenance.
And we want to thank Calico Jacks for providing snacks for our volunteers this evening. And our great volunteers have been doing a wonderful job this evening answering the phones. They have been busy all evening. Thanks to you for calling, and thanks to our volunteers from the Learning Institute for the Elderly at UCF for answering our telephones. It takes all of us to put together Channel 24 and bring you all these great programs. You as members, us as folks who work here at the station, volunteers and businesses who give of their time and their services and goods and services to keep Channel 24 going. We really do appreciate that. And we appreciate the interest that you're showing in Body, Mind, and Soul this evening. We'll be going back to Dr. Chopra's final comments and remarks in just a moment, but we do want you to take this opportunity to let us know that this program is important with your pledge. $5 or $10 or $25 is just as important to us as a pledge of $200 or $250. So give us a call and let us know that you're enjoying the program.
Now that we have seen the environment, the body, the mind, the soul, and soon we'll see the spirit as part of one continuum, let us, in fact, try and look at this model a little more carefully. And to explain this in detail, I have chosen a model that comes from the ancient tradition of healing from India, a science known as Ayurveda. The word Ayus means science, and Veda means knowledge. So the word Ayurveda simply means knowledge of life. The word Ayus means life, Veda means knowledge. So the word means knowledge of life. And this model is credited to a great seer, lived in India in ancient times, Adi Shankara. And I'd like to explain this model to you and see if it has any relevance to us today in the world of science and technology. Can we understand the same model in terms of our current understanding of reality from a scientific perspective? And Adi Shankara says that we have a physical body, a subtle body, and a causal body. The physical body is, of course, in space and time. It's three-dimensional. It exists in space, or at least occupies locations in space and has moments in time. And it's made up of matter and of energy. And the word energy in Sanskrit is referred to as prana. The Chinese call it chi. The Japanese call it ki. In the Judaic tradition, it's frequently referred to as ruah. Islamic tradition, ruh. Similar ideas exist everywhere. The physical body is made up of body and of matter and energy, and we know both from common sense and from physics that energy can be transformed into matter, and matter can be experienced as energy. And the energy of the universe consists of things like electromagnetism, which gives rise to heat, light, electricity, gravity, which holds us to the ground and makes the Earth go around and holds the planets together. And then there are strong and weak forces, which are subatomic forces that we don't have to get into. The point is that this whole universe is energy, and all these energies are one cosmic energy being experienced as different energies. And energy and matter are inseparably one. That's the physical body, which has a pretty short shelf life, usually, about 80 years or so, getting better all the time. Then beyond the facade of molecules is a whole different world, where we experience the mind, the intellect, and the ego, which you can't localize, at least in space, even though it has existence in time. A thought has no locality in space. A thought is unpredictable, like a quantum event. It's fleeting, it's invisible. And therefore, it has no localization in space. But it does have localization in time, because it has a beginning, it has a middle, and an ending. A thought, a feeling, an emotion, they begin, they have a middle, they have an ending. So these realms of abstract existence are termed the subtle body, because you can't experience it through your senses, hence subtle. In the mind, we experience emotions, feelings, desires. In the intellect, we experience ideas, concepts, notions, and beliefs. Beliefs are ideas that we hold to be true. Are they true? They're true if you hold them to be true. Are they universally true? Obviously not. Otherwise, people wouldn't be killing each other for their beliefs. The old expression is, the ancient expression is, beliefs die hard, they outlive the believer. Beyond the intellect is the ego. The ego is our state of object referral. I'd like to define that term. Object referral means that you refer to an object in order to identify yourself. That's what the ego is. It's object referral. You're referring to something in order to identify yourself. So if I meet you on the street and I ask you, who are you? I don't think you usually respond by saying I'm a holographic expression of the entire universe that is manifesting as a continuum of probability amplitudes for space-time events, which is technically a fairly accurate definition of who you really are. But if I ask you, who are you? You usually respond by naming objects, a name, a passport, a social security number, a job description, a relationship, a bank account, an automobile, a house. You relinquish yourself for your self-image. The ego is the self-image that happens as a result of sacrificing the spirit for the image, as a result of identification with objects. And in this is the birth of time. Time is nothing other than the continuity of memory, which uses the internal reference point as the ego. The internal reference point is the self-image. And the continuity of memory using that as the internal reference point is time. You break the barrier of the ego, you enter a timeless domain, that of the spirit, which cannot, as we saw earlier, which cannot be squeezed into the volume of a body or the span of a lifetime, because the spirit is timeless and spaceless and dimensionless and non-local. As you break the barrier of your ego, which makes it necessary for you to feel offended most of the time, as you break that barrier, you discover this other realm, which is frequently known as the causal body, because it gives rise to the subtle body. The causal body similarly has two components. It has a soul and a spirit. The soul is the continuum of probability amplitudes with those three things: action, memory, and desire, the software. And then beyond that, the field of pure potentiality, which has been frequently referred to in spiritual traditions as the ultimate ground of creation, the spirit, the universal spirit. So if you like spiritual terminology, then it's easy. You have a body, you have energy, you have a mind, you have an intellect, you have an ego, you have a soul, and you have a spirit. That's the spiritual terminology that every spiritual tradition, everywhere in the world, has used. But you could just as easily say that you are made up of matter fields and energy fields and transformation fields and information fields and unified fields. Information field, it's a nice word actually. Information means to give rise to form. Information. And these are the transformation fields. And as we go from the most superficial layer of existence to the deeper layers of existence, we find that there is relative non-change. The body has a short shelf life, but the mind, the intellect, and the ego have a longer life than the molecules on which they ride. My physical body is not the same as my last year's model. This is a 1995 model, I believe. The 1994 model is dead. It's gone. It came from the dust, swirled around for a bit, is back in the dust. So that's dead. I haven't died. My feelings, my emotions, my memories are the same. So maybe you see this is already scientific proof for the existence of life after death. It's happening all the time. The emotions have a longer shelf life than the molecules through which they express themselves. And the information field that gives rise to the emotions even longer, till ultimately you end up with the ultimate ground of creation, what David Bohm calls the implicate order, from where everything emerges, the ultimate ground of creation. We could also say that, describe the same model by saying that this is the field of pure potentiality, where the observer, the process of observation, and that which is observed are all there, but they're unmanifest. The seer, the scenery, the process of seeing, they're all there. They're hiding, so to speak. At this level, the information field, the observer or the seer dominates the experience. At this level, the mind, intellect, and ego, the process of seeing, the process of observation dominates. Because how do we observe? Through the filter of the mind, the intellect, and the ego. And at this level, the physical body and the world out there, the object of experience dominates. But if we understand this model, then we see that the observer, the process of observation, and that which is being observed are all essentially different manifestations of the same thing. That the observer and the observed are one, that the seer and the scenery are one, that the knower and the object of knowledge are one, that the lover and the beloved are one. And that is the ultimate goal of all spiritual traditions, to have the experience of unity consciousness, not intellectually, but experientially, and then to be transformed as a result of that experience. That is why the ancient seers, when they defined this model, they said, I'm not in the world is in me. I'm not in the body is in me. I'm not in the mind is in me. The body, the mind, and the world, they happen to me because I curve back within myself and create again and again and again. This, then, is the ultimate goal of all spiritual traditions, and is ultimately the meaning of the word wholeness as well. Now, having said that, I would like to take you through a short experience, because I want to show to you that a little process of silence in the mind can bring us into this space between thoughts. Franz Kafka, the great German writer, once said, he said, you need not do anything, remain sitting at your table and listen. Then he said, you don't even have to listen, just wait. Then he said, you don't even have to wait, just learn to become quiet and still and solitary. And the world will freely offer itself to you to be unmasked. It has no choice. It will roll in ecstasy at your feet. Blaise Pascal, the French philosopher, said, all of humanity's misery comes from its inability to sit quietly, close the eyes, and do nothing. We are human beings. We are human beings, not human thinkings, not human doings, but human beings. And if you want to know who you are, you have to spend a little time with yourself. The ability to think is an extraordinary human ability. But even more extraordinary and human is the ability to not think. Because when you do that, you get in touch with your own immortal soul, the spirit. A biblical expression says, be still and know that I am God. So let's, for a few moments, just close our eyes and experience the stillness. Don't do anything. Just close your eyes and perhaps observe your breath. And as you become aware of thoughts and sensations and the environment, just simply come back to the breath. And now keep your eyes closed and just have awareness in your whole body. Awareness in your whole body at the level of being. It means awareness in every cell of your body. Consciousness in every cell of your body. The whole body is a lively, self-interacting, intelligent field of consciousness, of bliss. And you don't have to think these thoughts. All you have to do is have awareness in the body, just that idea, and then the self, being, is in every cell of the body. Perfect balance, perfect integration, perfect order, perfect harmony, pure consciousness, bliss, everywhere in the body. Keep your attention in the body, and you'll see it bubbles with energy, it bubbles with bliss. Okay, you may open your eyes. We did this quite fast, even though time is an illusion. But how many people, as they, first of all, as they just watched their breath, how many people felt that even in a few minutes, as they did that, they became so relaxed that maybe they were even drifting off to sleep? How many people had that experience? Please raise your hands. Well, what does that mean? If in 2 minutes you start watching your breath and you get so relaxed, you start to drift off to sleep, what does that mean? It means you need a lot of sleep. Nothing more than that. Your body is telling you, listen, give me 2 minutes, I want to sleep. You know, in this culture, a very scientific explanation of meditation is that it's the relaxation response. It's to relax. The fact is that yogis, ancient seers, the word yogi comes from the same root as the Latin word yoke, which means to unify the experience of body, mind, and spirit. And the yogis, who were the original authors of meditation, these guys were in Himalayas, in the caves, they were pretty relaxed to begin with. They weren't trying to relax. They were trying to be more alert. They were trying to eavesdrop on this cosmic mind, on this non-local field of energy and information. And of course, relaxation can be a prelude to that, but please don't think relaxation is the ultimate experience. It's the ultimate experience if we live in a hysterical and melodramatic society. But it's only the prelude to awareness. And awareness is the source of biological information and energy in everything that's alive. The same awareness that filters through this body and creates my world filters through your body and creates another world for you. Same awareness. And in order to get to that awareness, we have to learn to slip in the spaces between thoughts. And when we do that, then we eavesdrop on the software that not only runs the machinery of our own body, but the software that runs the machinery of the universe. And then from that level, if we put our attention on something, then we can activate energy and information. How many people, when they put their attention in the body, felt a little rush of energy, or some tingling, or some warmth? If you did, please raise your hands. So even in 2 minutes, imagine if you were in a cave in the Himalayas for 13 years doing this. You can use your attention and intention to bring about transformations in the body. It gives you infinite flexibility once you begin to experience your body as a bundle of energy and information, and you as the source in the spaces between thoughts as the source of energy and information. Attention is energy, intention is transformation or information. Attention and intention, these are the two components of awareness, which is biological information. And the source of this is in the gap between your thoughts. And all the technologies that are used in the healing traditions of all ancient cultures have to do with the ability to influence energy and informational states as different expressions of consciousness itself. And when you reach a point in your life when you recognize that, then you begin to have what is called active mastery over life.